Your healing began the day you stopped trying to heal. Not when you found the right therapist, not when you read the perfect book, not when you finally understood why your father never hugged you, or why your mother's love came wrapped in conditions, like a gift you had to earn every single day. It began when you stopped performing recovery like a dance for an audience that was never watching. All those years, you thought healing meant fixing yourself, as if you were a broken vase that could be glued back together, as if your pain was a stain that needed scrubbing, as if your wounds were defects in some grand design, rather than the very cracks through which your light was trying to escape. But here's what they never told you. Your inner child doesn't need to be healed. Your inner child needs to be met. And the exact moment this meeting occurs is not when you finally become whole. It's when you finally become willing to be broken. Openly, without apology, without the frantic scramble to put yourself back together for the comfort of others. You've been solving the wrong equation your entire life. You've been asking, what's wrong with me? When the real question was always, what's right with me that I've been taught to hide? You've been trying to cure yourself of your own humanity, trying to medicate your way out of feeling, trying to think your way out of the labyrinth of your own heart. The industries built around your brokenness depend on you staying broken. They need you to believe that healing is a product you can purchase, a destination you can reach, a certificate you can earn by completing enough steps, attending enough sessions, saying enough affirmations. They profit from your perpetual searching because a healed person doesn't need to keep buying solutions. But what if the very search for healing is what keeps you wounded? What if the constant focus on what's broken is what prevents you from recognizing what was never damaged in the first place? They conditioned you to believe that childhood was something to recover from, didn't they? That innocence was weakness, that wonder was naive, that the part of you that once danced without music and cried without shame was somehow less evolved than the armored adult you learned to become. From the moment you could walk, they began teaching you to walk away from yourself. Don't be so sensitive. Stop crying. At your age, grow up. Each command was a small death, a betrayal of the wildness that lived in your bones, the authenticity that flowed through your veins like blood. You learned to be good by being less loud, less needy, less honest about what hurt. You discovered that love was conditional, a transaction, where your natural self was the currency you had to spend to purchase acceptance. And so you spent yourself, piece by piece, until you forgot what it felt like to be rich with your own presence. The pain you carry isn't just from what happened to you, it's from what you did to yourself in order to survive what happened to you. You abandoned yourself before anyone else could abandon you. You rejected your own tenderness before the world could find it and use it against you. This is the deepest wound. Not that they hurt you, but that you learned to hurt yourself in the same way, with the same voice, using the same words they used. You became your own executioner, your own harsh judge, your own withholding parent. But there's something even more sinister at work here. The very people who wounded your inner child, your parents, your teachers, your religious leaders, they were operating from their own wounded inner children. The abuse wasn't personal. It was generational. The neglect wasn't intentional. It was inherited. The criticism wasn't about you. It was about their inability to tolerate in you what they had been forced to kill in themselves. Your mother's sharp tongue was her own inner child screaming through the prison bars of her conditioning. Your father's emotional distance was his own little boy hiding in the basement of his psyche, terrified of being seen as weak. They didn't wound you because you were bad. They wounded you because they couldn't bear to witness in you the aliveness they had been taught to bury in themselves. This understanding changes everything. It means your pain isn't evidence of your brokenness. It's evidence of your sensitivity. Your wounds aren't proof of your deficiency. They're proof of your capacity to feel in a world that had forgotten how to feel. Your inner child didn't get hurt because there was something wrong with you. Your inner child got hurt because there was something right with you that threatened a system built on numbness. In the philosophy of the soul, there exists a concept that modernity has forgotten: the eternal child. Not the immature adult who refuses responsibility, but the deathless part of you that existed before conditioning, before fear learned your name, before you traded your wonder for the illusion of safety. This child is not a memory. It is a presence. Not something you once were, but something you have always been beneath the layers of protection you've wrapped around yourself, like grave clothes. The mystics knew this. The poets sang of it. The wise ones of every tradition spoke of return, not to a place, but to a state of being that was never truly lost, only buried beneath the accumulated debris of a life lived in exile from yourself. Carl Jung called it the divine child, the archetypal energy of renewal and possibility that lives in the psyche like a seed buried in winter soil, waiting for the right conditions to break open into light. Rumi wrote of it as the beloved, this one you've been searching for everywhere, except in the mirror of your own heart. This is not psychology. This is poetry made flesh. This is not therapy. This is theology of the most intimate kind. Your inner child is not a problem to be solved, but a presence to be welcomed home. Not a wound to be healed, but a wellspring to be honored. The ancient Greeks had a word for this: palingenesis, the cyclical renewal of life, the eternal return to original innocence, not through regression, but through integration. They understood that wisdom is not the opposite of innocence, but innocence that has learned to include shadow, wonder that has made peace with pain. In the Hindu tradition, this is called sahaja, the natural state, the effortless being that exists before effort, the spontaneous aliveness that flows when you stop trying to control the flow. The sages spoke of returning to the state of a child, while retaining the discrimination of an adult, not becoming childish, but becoming childlike, not losing maturity, but finding naturalness. The Taoists called it pu, the uncarved block, the original simplicity that exists before complexity, the wholeness that includes all parts without being diminished by any of them. They knew that healing is not addition, but subtraction, not becoming more, but becoming less defended, less strategic, less afraid of your own aliveness. The exact moment of healing is the moment you stop trying to fix what was never broken and start listening to what was always singing. Here is the radical truth they don't want you to know. Your inner child doesn't heal through techniques or strategies or 12-step programs. Your inner child heals through one thing only: unconditional presence. Not love with conditions, not acceptance with asterisks, but the fierce, unwavering commitment to show up for yourself exactly as you are, in this moment, without trying to be anyone else. This is a virtue born not from sacrifice, but from abundance. Not from fixing, but from flowing. Like the sun that shines not because it must, but because it cannot help but shine. Like the river that gives not because it's generous, but because giving is its very nature. When you finally meet your inner child with this kind of presence, something ancient awakens. The part of you that knows how to play returns. The part of you that trusts your own instincts rises from its grave. A part of you that loves without strategy, that creates without purpose, that exists without apology. This part stretches and yawns and remembers its own name. You stop asking, "How do I heal?" and start asking, "How do I live?" You stop trying to become someone worthy of love and start recognizing that love is not something you earn, but something you are. The healing happens not because you've done it right, but because you finally stopped doing it at all. This new virtue doesn't seek to improve the child. It seeks to free the child. It doesn't want to make you better. It wants to make you real. It understands that authenticity is not a destination but a practice, not a goal, but a way of walking through the world with your heart open, especially when it hurts. From this place, you give not from your wounds, but from your wholeness, not from your need, but from your overflow. You love not because you're trying to fill something empty inside you, but because love is the natural expression of a life that has remembered its own worth. But this virtue requires a radical redefining of strength. The world taught you that strength means not crying, not needing, not showing vulnerability. But true strength, the strength of the integrated inner child, means crying when tears want. To come needing what you need without shame, showing your vulnerability as the most courageous act of all. This is the strength of water, which appears soft but can carve through stone. This is the strength of grass, which bends with the wind but never breaks. This is the strength of a child who falls down and gets back up not because they're trying to be brave, but because getting back up is simply what life does. When you embody this virtue, you become dangerous to the systems that depend on your compliance. You become threatening to the structures that require your numbness. You become a living reminder of what it means to be fully alive in a world that has forgotten how to live. But even this beautiful reunion must end. Even this sacred healing must know its own death. There comes a moment when the inner child, finally held and honored, and met with the presence it always deserved, must step back into the silence from which it came. Not because the healing was incomplete, not because you failed somehow, but because all things, even the most precious things, have their season. The mystics understood this, that every rebirth requires a death, that every resurrection demands a crucifixion, that every spring must pass through winter's silence. Your inner child will retreat, as all wise children do when they've had enough of playing, back into the deep stillness that is their home. This is not abandonment. This is completion. This is not loss. This is integration. The child doesn't disappear. It dissolves into you, becomes you, teaches you how to live as a whole person who no longer needs to choose between innocence and wisdom, between vulnerability and strength. In this silence, you learn the most mature truth of all, that healing is not a permanent state, but a continuous flow, not a destination, but a dance. Sometimes you will feel broken again. Sometimes the old wounds will ache like phantom limbs. Sometimes you will forget your own worth and need to remember it all over again. And this is perfect. This is how it's supposed to be. The river does not flow in a straight line, and neither does the human heart. There is wisdom in the forgetting as well as the remembering, power in the breaking as well as the mending. In the silence between breaths, between heartbeats, between one moment of awareness and the next, your inner child rests in the eternal now, no longer seeking healing because it has remembered that it was never truly wounded, only temporarily forgotten. This silence is not empty. It is pregnant with possibility. It is not dead. It is deeply alive. It is the silence of the seed in the dark earth, gathering energy for its emergence. It is the silence of the moon between phases, collecting light for its return. It is the silence of your own heart between beats, preparing for the next moment of a livenness. Here, in this sacred pause, you understand that the inner child's healing was never about becoming someone new. It was about becoming who you always were before the world convinced you that who you were wasn't enough. The healing was a homecoming, a return to the original blueprint of your being, the restoration of your factory settings. In this silence, you finally hear what your inner child has been trying to tell you all along. I was never broken. I was only buried. I was never damaged. I was only denied. I was never in need of fixing. I was only in need of finding my way back to the surface of your awareness, back to the center of your life, back to the truth of who we are together. Now comes the invitation, the sacred commitment, the promise you make not to the world, but to the part of yourself that has been waiting your entire life for this moment of recognition. In the comments below, write these words. I meet myself with presence, not as a platitude, not as a positive affirmation, not as something you hope will be true someday, but as a declaration of what is already happening in this very moment as you read these words. Your inner child is not somewhere else waiting to be found. Your inner child is here, now, in the part of you that is reading this with wonder, in the part of you that feels moved by beauty, in the part of you that still believes, despite everything, that transformation is possible. The exact moment of healing is not when you become perfect. It's when you become present. Not when you fix all your problems, but when you meet all your problems with the same unconditional presence you would offer a beloved friend. But this commitment goes deeper than words. It's a commitment to stop waiting for permission to be yourself. It's a commitment to stop apologizing for your sensitivity, your needs, your humanness. It's a commitment to stop performing adulthood like a character in a play you never auditioned for. It's a commitment to trust your instincts again, to honor your emotions as messengers rather than enemies, to treat your body as a temple rather than a machine. It's a commitment to play without purpose, to create without critique, to love without guarantee. That this is your rebellion against a world that profits from your self-doubt. This is your revolution against the systems that require your disconnection from yourself. This is your return to the radical act of being exactly who you are, without modification, without improvement, without apology. Watch the next video. Read the next chapter. Continue this conversation with yourself, this dialogue between who you think you are and who you have always been. But do it from presence, not from need. Do it from wholeness, not from lack. The child within you is not broken and never was. The child within you is not waiting to be healed. The child within you is waiting to be remembered, to be invited back into the dance of your daily life, to teach you once again how to love without strategy, how to create without purpose, how to exist without apology. This is your homecoming. This is your return. This is the exact moment your inner child begins to heal, not by becoming something new, but by being welcomed back into the wholeness you never actually left. The healing was never about the child. The healing was always about your willingness to be the adult who could finally provide what the child had always needed. Not perfection, but presence. Not answers, but attention. Not fixing, but friendship with the totality of who you are. And in this friendship, in this meeting of inner child and conscious adult, something miraculous happens. You stop living in exile from yourself. You stop treating your own heart like a foreign country. You stop speaking to yourself in a language of criticism and start speaking in the mother tongue of compassion. The exact moment of healing is this moment, right now. As you feel these words landing in your body, as you sense the recognition stirring in your bones, as you remember, perhaps for the first time in years, what it feels like to be on your own side. Welcome home.